Welcome back, my infinite love listeners. Today's episode is Letting the Cards Fall, the Tower Moments. The hardest part of the healing journey were the insurmountable goodbyes that were necessary to transpire. It was evident how attached I was to the feelings, to the people, to the places, to the things that my being clung onto so tightly. Navigating through each and understanding where these attachments came from was its own separate journey. Letting them go was its own historical battle. There were no directions. It was so complex because I had to drastically take steps backwards in order to attempt to move forward. So many obstacles were in my way, but those obstacles were me. Everything I had learned to mask in order to protect my wounded self needed to be unraveled and unveiled. What I wasn't expecting, though, was the pain, the turmoil, and the grief that came with each. Picture a deck of cards. One of my favorite pastimes as a child was to stack that entire deck, creating a tower. You slowly and methodically place one card upon another while steadily holding each card in place, balancing another card on top. Holding your breath in fear that one false move, one poor choice, would lead to your tower falling down all around you, demolishing everything you just built for yourself. Who would have known that this would become the infrastructure of my own reality? But I kept on trying, determined that I'd stack every single card to create my castle. It took me a long time, so many do-overs, repeated cycles, until I changed my direction of how I'd place those cards. When I shifted my mindset from doubt and fear to hope and excitement, when I let go of the attachment of the outcome and just embraced this beautiful challenge to which I chose to accomplish for myself. Without even knowing it then, life was already presenting me lessons that could allow me to learn from and grow from if I had only known. A simple stacking of cards would eventually become my tower moments I'd experienced in my life, because universe knew I had the potential to rise above, to soar to new heights, to break generational trauma, to become the warrior I am today, without judgment, shame, or doubt. I just have to remove the masks that blinded me from the truth. So how do I do this exactly? Once I picked myself up off the ground and decided in that moment that I desired so much more for myself, that what was presently in my life, then I began to look inwardly. Something I hadn't done before. Something I was so terrified of doing, because the uncomfortableness was all I knew how to feel, how to live in. Picture yourself driving on an open road, no one else in sight, just you, the road, and the scenic beauty that captivates your mind into wild daydreams, allowing you to feel free within imagination, giving you this sense of power that you are unstoppable, untouchable, invisible. Unbeknownst to you, you begin to press down on the gas pedal, elevating the greater speeds. It is intense, the feeling of power, of freedom, of excitement, of great wonder, mixed with fear, doubt, judgment. Knowing you are doing something incredibly wrong and dangerous, yet this crazy, beautiful chaos you put yourself in is exhilarating as the adrenaline rushes through you, muting the thoughts in your mind for only brief moments. Then you are pulled back into reality, and you find yourself slamming on the brakes, bringing you to a complete stop as you narrowly escape death by one foolish choice. By losing control, chasing the high of escaping reality for one moment, just to feel something greater than what it was you weren't feeling in your reality. These quick fixes, or in my case, masks, I began to wear were only burying deeper and deeper the pains I wasn't willing to work on. No more running, no more chasing what wasn't really there to begin with. No more hiding from my pains. No more lying to myself. No more living in fear, self-doubt, and shame. No more holding on to the anger and resentment of my past. Absolutely no more. These were the cards I was dealt with. Why not build the life I truly desired? I began to sit within my emotions and feelings anytime I was triggered, instead of indulging in the nightlife to put healing on pause. One by one, I acknowledged and took accountability of those feelings, and rather than shame myself, I forgave myself. I honestly thought forgiving others would be the hardest part of my journey, but truly, forgiving your own self is not only the hardest, but most heartbreaking. I never could allow myself to picture what doing the work within might feel like during the process, probably because it may have scared me to take those steps. Instead, I held on to the feeling of the outcome and what that could look like, but only in the beginning. Then I simply had no time to even think ahead as I was painfully reliving and grieving the old parts of me that I began to shed. I'm a pretty vulnerable soul, but unveiling these new layers was beyond uncomfortable. My soul felt naked and exposed, yet freeing and soaring to new awakenings. Again, I had to simply let go. I found myself re-evaluating, assessing, and removing things such as belongings, clothing, spending habits, alcohol, job positions, friendships, relationships, connections, behaviors, thoughts, routines, eating habits, and thought patterns. I simply had to let it all go, one by one. Little did I know that back then I was slowly building my own tower moments by avoiding what it was that was transpiring within me. Every time I said, I'm okay, when I truly wasn't. Every single time I stuffed the anger deep down inside when another rude comment would slam down upon me for something I couldn't control. I put on that armor of strength as people began to recognize me for it, when really it was all a facade. To feel I had some control of my life, of my feelings. My emotions were a time bomb, ticking away. Layer after layer, I began to peel away my truth, my reality, in which I was a part to own, to take accountability for. No more victimizing myself. If I'm a true warrior, then I'd shed these masks and reveal my true identity, taking pride in my darkness and turning it into beautiful light for myself to then share with others. None of this was easy. In fact, there were many times while crying at night, I'd find myself begging and pleading with God to give me the strength to which I didn't have, to just breathe, to carry out my day with ease. I wasn't asking for much, just the weight of my pain to be removed. Looking back now, my prayers were answered, just not the way one would desire or grow from, had the lessons not been there too. I shared in my first season that my teenage years were some of my toughest years. I came to a breaking point where I couldn't picture my life anymore. I couldn't see a future as it was overgrown by my darkness. One night, one decision could ultimately change the lives of many I loved and whom loved me. It was that one night as my loud cries became muffled by the darkness, with only one terrifying thought in my head. A voice so clear broke through the deafening silence and broke me free of the chains I shackled to myself. Your soul serves a greater purpose. That's all I could hear. It repeated over and over. I didn't know what that was then, but I believed in it. I believed in God, in universe, in holding faith. Yet I still wasn't taking action upon that journey. I wasn't embracing my healing fully, but was taking steps forward. Sometimes big steps forward, other times huge leaps backwards. Since I wasn't removing what no longer served me, universe was doing it for me. Again, I didn't make any of these connections until now, until I devoted myself fully into my healing, my awakenings, my soul's purpose. I can literally go back into my entire past and acknowledge every moment that was a beautiful lesson, a divine blessing to be received, had I just tore off the mask that blinded me from seeing the truth, even my own truth. It was all right there all along. This journey begins and ends with me. I just couldn't see that because I couldn't see me. I couldn't love or see my worth. Therefore, began building these tower moments one after another, making my own journey more difficult, more complex, brutally torturous to my heart and soul than it even had to be. There is no roadmap with clear directions on how to heal. Every journey is different. All I can say is, rather than tearing down these walls all at once, just walk through the door first, as you hold the key to your own healing journey. I'll be quite honest, healing at times feels like a long-distance marathon. However, when triggers slowly dissipate, and you've grown so much within to acknowledge how to handle a trigger with ease and compassion, your perspective on life and that marathon you've been running for so long doesn't feel like a marathon. It doesn't feel like there is no end in sight because you are no longer wishing for or desiring the finish line because you are embracing the blessings you've received along the way. Every turn you make and new view you are exposed to enlightens your soul and fills your heart with pure love, hope, happiness, and desire. The fear that consumed you as the shot rang off to begin this race we call life is now motivation and empowerment as you just passed your first milestone. You begin to let your old thoughts go, your self-doubts transform into perseverance, pushing you to take another step forward. The weakness you felt in your body in the beginning of the race is now fueled by your strength and power. You begin to smile as you are now creating new memories from a healthier state of mind. You are present, right here, in this moment, visualizing yourself taking action, changing course, standing in your light, your worth, your love, as you keep passing more and more milestones on your journey. So begins the journey, and the toughest battles I faced, honestly, were the ones I shielded myself of. I made sure to cloak every mirror to escape the reality of my truth, the truth that I was too afraid to stare back at my own reflection. I was too angry at myself for detaching from my inner child, yet in return, became attached to everything else. My entire life, I was surrounded by death. I was just about to turn 8 when I first experienced the loss of a family member. As the years rolled by, I would lose aunts, uncles, grandparents, and even friends. So much grieving, the pain and fear quickly plagued my reality. Back then, the question always came up, why? Why so much grief to bear? Fast forward to the present, and now the fear and pain has subsided. We may not always receive the answers we desire in these moments, but what if the perspective has shifted? And what if the grief was only a part of the journey to which I hold gratitude for, the experiences, the beautiful moments that transpired that are now lasting memories imprinted upon my heart and soul? What if this was preparation of what I was to learn when having to let go? Let go of the things, the people, the places that no longer are a part of my journey in the present. This includes grieving the versions of me that no longer serve the person I'm becoming, that I am today. Earlier, I spoke about the tower I'd built with a simple deck of cards. What I had desired was to build a beautiful pyramid, overcome by the elation of this masterpiece. Somewhere along the way of building that structure, I allowed the anxiety, doubt, fear, and anger get the best of me. becoming so determined, proving to myself that it was going to get built, that I no longer was building a pyramid. Rather, my ego was building a tower moment. Healing isn't easy, and then adding in the spiritual awakenings, new questions, the need for learning more, while grieving and shedding versions of you that you've grown so attached to, is exhausting, uncomfortable at times, and lonely too. But as you stack another card, victoriously moving forward on your path, you begin to see the beauty all around you. You begin to take steps forward in a more loving heart space. Acknowledge that this was always going to be my journey, and rather than running from it, I embraced all of it, the darkness and the light. I truly appreciate this healing journey. I appreciate my entire life, from beginning to end. I choose not to live in fear. Rather, I choose to live with love. I surround myself with love. I see love everywhere. I've let go of the pains that no longer serve me. And as I keep taking steps forwards, change is inevitable. It's always going to transpire. Because I choose to flow with this journey. I choose to embrace every corner I take. I choose to acknowledge the good and the bad. I learn from the lessons and transform them into my own blessings. I am grateful for all that's been, for all that is, and for all that will be. Thank you for joining me on this episode.